Good morning and good evening to everybody. We've got two different time zones operating here together today, so we'll get into it. So welcome to our webinar. And look, today we're going to take a look at the situation that many of us are now finding ourselves in, the remote workforce, having to work from lounge rooms, homes, offices, that sort of thing. For some, it's been easy. You know, they've been doing this prior to the whole COVID-19 pandemic. For others, it's taken a bit of getting used to. Like myself, having to also have children at home as well. You know, there's new protocols, there's new technology, there's new work patterns. You know, people are dealing with isolation. Personally, for me, the ability to not be able to talk sport on a Monday morning is absolutely killing me. So anyway, I thought I would invite someone on today who's been at it for quite a while to see if he can help those of us who have only just sort of begun this journey into the remote workforce. So let's get into it. So as usual, you have myself, Chris Lukianenko, the host and creator of the Intelligent Workplace podcast. And joining me today is Ryan Thomas, the CEO of Timlin Enterprises. So Ryan has spent over 20 years enabling customers using Microsoft technologies. And as a founder of Timlin, he's worked with many clients over the years as they embark on their digital transformation journey. So not only is he a full-time remote worker, you can see him there in his lounge room, he's helped many other companies adopt the remote working model. So welcome aboard, Ryan.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Really appreciate you having me.
Absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. So I say this each week, but hopefully you might have seen this slide before if you've been to a previous podcast. This is LiveTiles. We're a global company specializing in employee collaboration and communication software. And we are all around the globe. And we are all working remotely as we speak. So the agenda for today, excuse me. So as usual, these are conversations. This is not a death by PowerPoint exercise. So at any time during this session, if you want to ask a question, please do so using the app, and I'll do my best to pick those out and offer them up to Ryan as we go through. So as I said, today we'll be taking a bit of a deep dive into the world of remote working. We'll throw in some tips, some tricks, some advice, observations and stories in doing so. So first up, we'll talk about what has changed in the world in the last sort of couple of months, and then we'll explore the idea of collaboration in the new world. We'll then take a look at how work patterns are changing and how that is a challenge for some. Meetings are next up, and then we'll take a look at the important task of fun and engagement for workers. And then lastly, we'll have a quick chat about Microsoft Teams and the role that is currently playing in this whole new world. So let's get into it. So look, Ryan, it doesn't take a genius to notice that our way of working has changed. For some, this change hasn't been great, and for others, they seem to actually be thriving with this. What are you seeing with your customers in the market at the moment?
Yeah, Chris, we're seeing lots of different things. We are heavily sort of focused in the biotech and pharmaceutical space just by default, so that tends to be where we see a lot of the patterns sort of emerging. We have obviously different customers in different areas too, but we saw the initial mad scramble, right? Everybody's got to get home. Some people were more prepared for it than others, and so we do a lot of Teams deployments and things like that, governance. So you kind of know which people are going to be a little bit better than others based on their sort of ongoing activity already. And we've also been trying to help some new people or people we didn't know that are they struggle, right? They don't know how to use the tools. They were really accustomed to working in the office, but it's an adjustment, right? And what I like about it is that the adjustment was something I was kind of hoping was going to happen. I certainly wasn't hoping this is the way it would happen, but I believe really strongly in these tools, and so I guess I'll take that as a positive out of this, which is some people really got thrown into the water and had to learn how to swim, and the good news is most people are figuring it out, and so I think it's been a pleasant sort of surprise in a lot of ways.
I'm reading a lot of things at the moment around, potentially we need to get used to this long term. So do you see this being the long-term model for the working world?
I think this is the new normal for a while, and I think that some semblance of this will hang on no matter what, and I think for a bunch of different reasons. And I think obviously for health reasons, people until we sort of feel really, really comfortable, there'll be some type of separation that people will need to maintain. But I also think that regardless of that, I think people will come out of this that may have been skeptics and will realize, like, okay, there's a lot of good that comes from this. And we as a company kind of already had done this. So if we had everybody in our office, we wouldn't have enough space for everybody because we have about half of our people, right, always working from home anyway. And so I always looked at it like, well, maybe we're just a little ahead of the curve. But if you think about it, you can save office space. Those office buildings can have more tenants, right? So they can decrease their risk. Like there's a whole bunch of good reasons for working from home. On top of all this stuff we're going to get into today, right? The benefits,
Yeah.
but I think it's here to stay.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. Yesterday, I think it was, the Australian government came out and has sort of started to put together a little bit of a roadmap for businesses getting back to work. And one of the things that they've been talking about is the fact that hot desks will not be allowed anymore because of the fact that you've got people coming and going from the same desk, sharing germs and all that sort of thing. So, maybe if we're talking about this as being part of the future, it's going to have to be part of the future, because we can't all fit 100 people into what is a 50 desk place sort of thing. So. Yeah,
Hmm.
really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Some people are a little bit down on all this, but what are some of the benefits that you've seen in your experience as a remote workforce?
It's you know what I got to take some real positives out of this one. So even though we were almost a remote company anyway, this has really been like a bonding moment for us. And I know we're going to talk about some of the things today about the specifics, but we I'm like super inspired by my team. At first, I was like I was really nervous. It's my company. I built it over 10 years, and I feel awful for these people that they had restaurants and they built their business, and then it just evaporated overnight. I mean, I just like awful. I feel awful, and so I'm of course I'm worried about my own people, not about their livelihood, because we sort of hung in there, but more about their mental state and how are they
Yeah,
doing. And it's like unbelievable. So we really enacted some measures to up our game to keep people connected, and we'll talk about those. But it was actually a wonderful thing. We are much closer as a team now than we were before, because we've sort of concentrating on the personal aspects of things instead of just work. And so now that you deliberately pay attention to that, and shame on me, I probably should have been doing that the whole time, but whatever it takes, right?
yeah,
And so we're sort of building trust, right? And I kind of took a couple of notes. The flexibility that we are encouraging people to take advantage of, because sometimes people work at 8 o'clock at night, right? At 6:30 p.m. my time, it's early your time. We're working right now, right? But I went and took a few hours off today to do something, and I don't get all freaked out when I see people with a yellow status in Teams. You know what I mean? Like they got things to do. I trust them to get their job done. People are less distracted, so I'm finding that our projects with our customers tend to be going better, because they're less kind of that like office getting caught up in other things, and so they're more sort of dialed in, no pun intended, to kind of what we're doing. And the frequency of the kind of communications and chats and stuff has been going up, which is really good. And obviously the more time with your family is good, and I'll put the
sure.
and bad and the bad and bad joke in there
Yes.
too. But 90% good and 10% driving you crazy, with your kids at home and all that. But it's overall it's a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I must admit, I've been talking to a lot of parents who are doing this homeschooling thing right now, and there's been a lot of googling trying to find out, grade 6 maths equations and things like that, because you just forget all that sort of stuff. So it's good
Right.
to have them around, but it's bad when you're being asked these questions and you can't remember your grade 6 mathematics stuff. So.
I'm not one of those guys, so I get it.
Let's talk about working together when you're apart. So, look, I work as part of a small team. And while 3 of my teammates are actually from my local office, we haven't ever actually worked together as a team in the office, because they've only just joined the team recently. And the other members of my team are in different cities. And so coming together as a team for us and finding a way to collaborate has actually been really, really challenging as a brand new team. But once we clicked, it's been so rewarding. We catch up every single day, and it's like we're in the same room. It's just been fantastic. So I was sort of wondering for you, the remote working and that collaboration element. How do you achieve that with Timlin?
Yeah, so like I said, this has been our MO for a while, so we kind of had this all dialed in already. We schedule our video meetings, and we kind of really ask people. We make sure all the remote people have a camera, and we ask, obviously if they're comfortable, which we've got everybody comfortable, sort of showing their face. It's really important to me to see someone's face, see that human being reaction,
Yep.
right? So we kind of make sure that's a requirement. We don't just keep it work related. Like I mentioned before, as we've started to add a personal element to it, it's really making working together better. And we're doing things like we buy lunch on Fridays for the team, and we send them like a $15 PayPal to each person, and they go get takeout. And I looked at it like
Oh
makes
yeah.
them feel good. I mean, it will make them feel good. I'm helping some local businesses where they happen to be, that makes me feel good. And we usually fly people in a couple times a year, a whole team, and we do fun stuff. And I'm not able to do that now, so I'm trying to find other ways to kind of make up for it. I know I also really recommend things like lunch and learns, and I'll probably talk about a little bit more later, but things you do on on Friday we'll grab a member of the team and we'll have them give a presentation casually, right? So we have lunch and everybody dials in and they look at and they start talking about maybe a topic that's important to the company organization. So I look at it like, hey, I get to do some cross pollination, buy people lunch, and sort of build more teamwork.
So it's not something you can just click your fingers though, and just all of a sudden we work remotely and we collaborate remotely and it's all great, is it? You really need to plan for this, even though we've been thrown into it.
Yep. So it takes time, and I would say, you don't. As I say with digital transformation in general, it's a process, not a project. So you're not just going to be able to set a bunch of structures up, check the boxes and go, all right, we're good. It takes a commitment, and it also takes a commitment to collecting kind of feedback, both like listening carefully and asking for feedback so that you know how to improve what you're doing and pay attention to people. Like, a couple times I'll talk to somebody and they just don't sound quite right, and I'll follow up with them and say, hey, look, how you doing? You know what I mean? And frankly, just asking them, it means the world to them, right? Like, you're just caring about people. So you got to sort of dig in, and it's not just a finger clicking exercise. You just got to keep going.
Yeah, but do you feel that we can be just as effective, collaborating remotely as we might be in the room, in the office?
Yes, yes,
You
I
don't
do.
sound convincing.
No, well, because I'm a social guy, and so
Same. Yeah.
it's cool doing this, but it's not the same. There are certain things like the drive by, right? The cube drive by, where
Yep.
you swing by and I'm like, hey, Chris, what's happening? You know what I mean? Like, what are you up to? And we shoot the breeze for a couple of minutes about something. Or I mean, at the office, like, I'd go at least once a day and I'd go grab somebody and I'd be like, let's go grab a coffee. And I would just go and I'd take orders for
Yep.
everybody in the office and just go down to Dunkin' Donuts and get everybody coffees. And not being able to do that is hard. But I've been trying to replace that with alternatives that may not be quite as good, but I still think they help, right? So the virtual coffee, right? So instead, I'll schedule a call with somebody, and it's scheduled, which kind of stinks, but it is what it is. And I'll say, hey, I'm gonna
Yeah.
grab a cup of coffee. Just want to catch up, catch up for 5 or 10 minutes. And you don't talk necessarily about work, or more like, hey, how's it going? Nothing, no specific agenda. And I think some of the things that are difficult. I mean, I think we can certainly be just as effective. It's just if we're having the same conversation 3 years from now, I'm trying to think ahead, right? What do we do to manage to make sure it stays effective? And certain things
Yeah.
are difficult, like letting hiring employees and letting employees go during this kind of stuff. Like, that's thankfully we haven't had to lay anybody off or let anybody go, but I just can't imagine that's got to be an awful thing to have to do that, over a video chat. So there's some
Oh,
things that
yeah.
I guess aren't quite as effective, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really miss those casual interactions where you just sort of bump into someone in the kitchen or whatever, and just a conversation out of nowhere can happen, and you might find something else out about that person or about a project that you're working on together. That's the stuff that you can't really do via the video, but we just got to get used to it, I suppose, for now. Yeah, absolutely. Now,
Mm-hmm.
look, it sort of all comes down to work patterns, and work patterns are different now. The days of having a regular 9 to 5, I think they're kind of behind us. And with remote working, as you mentioned before, work hours can be anything that you want. And for some people, this is a really difficult concept to grasp. And I sort of was wondering, do you feel like there's still a lot of people that don't really believe in the whole work from home concept?
Yes, I don't run into as many of them simply because of the business I'm in, right?
Yep.
Personally, because what we do, like, we're a remote company helping people work remotely and using these tools. So I don't find as many of them, but I've definitely run across a few and heard some stories about.
I think we might have lost Ryan there for a second. He might have.
So,
Oh
sorry,
no,
my
there we go. He's
Bluetooth,
back.
my Bluetooth headphones are on, and my phone rang, and it actually cuts me off. So I'm going to turn off my phone, not just mute my phone. I apologize. I don't usually do this.
Technology.
All right,
That's
but
see,
this
that's
is
that's
this is
why
the
I'm sitting here with my wired headphones. No Bluetooth
yeah. No,
interruption.
smart. Well, I didn't realize my phone was going to override my Bluetooth headset over here. I
Keep
apologize.
going, mate.
Yeah. So the there are some people that sort of believe in the whole, if you're at your desk, that you're working, and the badge of honor, working from home, sorry,
Yeah,
working late at night, last guy out, that kind of thing. And there are some people that still believe in that. And I try to very gently, I'm not judging anybody. So any of you out there, I'm not judging you, but I'm saying this, that if you are nervous about your people working from home because you can't see them, you probably either have a problem yourself or with your employee, right? Because I look at it like this. People, I don't micromanage people, never want to. I don't want to micromanage people. If I have to micromanage somebody, it means I'm doing something wrong or they are, right? Same kind of concept. So I believe in setting expectations, making it very clear what's expected of people and when it's supposed to be delivered, the whole trust but verify model. And then you're checking in with them, you're taking the roadblocks away, you're asking how they're doing, but you don't worry about it. I actually encourage people to go walk the dog, take a break. If you don't have anything you got to do right now, and people appreciate that. And that means that at 8 o'clock at night, when something's going haywire, like they'll be there to help me. So I think people are going to have to, like, they're going to have to get over it and figure out a way to solve that problem. No, I mean, and I don't think
Yeah.
installing the spyware stuff on people's computers is the answer either. I know I've heard some of those stories, and no, people just aren't going to want to deal with that. Not true professionals anyway.
It's funny, you get people saying, oh yeah, I want you to work from home and blah, 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 but then they still expect you to clock in at 8:30 and clock out at 5 o'clock and only take you 45 minutes for lunch. I think if you're going to be all in on this whole work from home experience, you need to, as you mentioned before, understand that there are things going to interrupt the day. You might need to go and clear your head and walk the dog, or you might have to attend to your son's maths homework and all that sort of thing. So, you've got to commit to the work from home concept, but also the new world that's a very flexible type of time. And if I'm starting work at 7 a.m. so I can take a 2-hour lunch break to, I don't know, sort out the kids, that's got to be all part of it. And you've got to buy into the entire concept.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, look, that whole thing around, building trust, how do you do it? Like I'm with you. I don't like this whole spyware sort of concept. I think that's terrible, and I don't think the concept of sneaky check-ins just to make sure that you're there really works. Is it something you've got to take a bit of a leap of faith with?
Um, I mean, some people, that's all they're going to be able to do, right? But
Yeah,
and no, because they just. But I mean, that's not the way I would do it. I mean, if let's say I didn't have the system in place, and I just would make sure that I walked around and I saw people like typing away at their computers, and I assumed that meant they were getting work done and everything was fine. And now all of a sudden they're all at home and I can't go look at them. I guess the first thing that I would do to establish trust is I would I would check in with them and say, okay, what are you working on? Let's make sure that I understand what the expectations are for the delivery. And I would probably check in more than I should. And this isn't me. This is somebody who's, let's say, who's trying to work their way into this carefully or gradually, until I started to feel like I don't need to check in with them because the work is still getting done, right? Like if the work product is still there at the end of the day or the end of the time frame, what does it matter to you? Like why do you feel the need to waste your time, right? And that's how I would build the trust. It would take, but that again, these people have to get over their hangups, right? I mean, it's a new world.
yeah. I was talking before how we've shifted to this new team. We've, new team, new members, don't know how these other people work. So there is this element of building trust. And we've decided to sort of start it off every day with a work in progress meeting every single morning. And it's really great. It's sort of worked in two ways. So, while we're in that whip, I take the dog for a walk. It starts at 8:30. I go for a walk at 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. and have that half an hour meeting at 8:30. So, it's great. I get out and about, we talk about the day ahead, and I think back to my last place of work, and that would have been completely frowned upon. But these days, I think especially with this whole isolation, it's not only are we making sure that all the tasks are getting done, but it's all a bit about mental health as well, because that seems to be it is a very important topic, especially at this time, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, you just talked about one of the benefits, right? Of what we get is you get flexibility. You get to go
Absolutely.
do that. It's healthier for you. I mean, I know plenty of people that are gonna need treatment at alcohol treatment facility, join AA after this is done. I mean, because they're just so wrapped up at home that I think that getting exercise, that taking those breaks is that's one of those things I think we can look at and go, something good can come from this. And more than allow it to happen as an employer or a boss, encourage it, right? Because
Yes.
that's going to healthy, happy, safe employees are effective ones, right?
Yeah, my two Labradors are going to be really upset if I have to go back to office working because they won't get their daily 1 hour walk and swim. So,
Exactly.
all righty, let's have a bit of a chat about new rules for meetings. So everybody's probably already, been doing online meetings every single day. We've got video and voice calls going on and all that sort of thing. It's been going on for quite a few years, but not everyone doing it every day, all day sort of thing where there are no real face-to-faces. And look, I know you have some thoughts on this, so I thought we'd throw up a few of your tips on the screen that you can maybe talk through. So one of the first important things you've mentioned is the importance of team check-ins.
Yeah. So when you don't get to see people or those drive-bys I talked about, or one thing I forgot to mention is the power of overhearing a conversation that someone could provide some value in,
Yep.
right? Like that's the kind of stuff that is super valuable that you don't get when everybody is isolated by themselves. So you kind of have to put some extra effort into the deliberate sort of work that sort of generates the same results. And so for us, that's we specifically have team check-ins. Like let's say they would have been more casual at the office. Now they're going to be more specific, right? And so you're going to add some meetings to the calendar. Sorry, that's kind of, I know nobody likes that, but if they're of quality and there's a personal nature to it, and it's not just a boring kind of work agenda meeting. They have a lot of benefit. So we're obviously we're upping the ante, even though we were doing that all the time anyway. We've sort of ratcheted that up for the people that we had in the office that we don't anymore.
Yeah, fair enough. Next up, transparency and authenticity are key.
Oh yeah. Okay. So you got to be genuine, right?
Yeah.
I see fake from a mile away. At least that's my deal, and I never want to portray that. So one of the ways that we do that is we talk about something personally with ourselves. Like I'll talk about how it's struggle to have my 12 and 14-year-old at home, and I'm trying to be their teacher now too, and you know what I mean. And if they have any issues with learning, it gets a lot harder for us to kind of help them when teachers are really at a loss. So when you kind of throw out the like, hey, I struggle too, and I'm willing to talk about it. Like you kind of create that peels away that veneer of, oh, I can't, that's the boss, you know what I mean? Or it's my boss or the boss, whatever it is. So yeah, you got to be a real human being.
Yeah, I agree. Next one, how long is long enough?
Yeah. So we have a really kind of strict rule. And for anybody that, and I'll give a shameless plug to just to somebody that I don't know, but the book is awesome, is this book called Traction by Gino Wickman. And it's one of the best books I've ever read, and I use it to kind of blueprint the running of the business. And it's absolutely awesome. And at least for someone like me who runs on instinct and guts, or gut instincts, I needed some sort of more specifics. And one of the things I took from that is a meeting, start and end on time, right? And have a to treat people with respect, their time with respect, and don't roll in 4 or 5 minutes late. Don't schedule back to backs if you can't get off the meeting. Respect that people have another meeting to go to, and the meetings on time at the latest. You know what I'm saying? So, and no lingering. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, good. All right, the last one, share the non-work moments.
Yeah. So we have some meetings each week according to the traction model, which is long before the whole COVID thing, where we start off. We start off with what we call the segue. So one of the segues is let's stop talking about work for a second, just to kind of loosen the mood a little bit. It's almost doing one of these little shake ups, sort of get the muscle shaken out, and you get people kind of just release a little bit of the tension. And so we really work hard in all of our meetings. We have a whole company meeting every week in the morning, Wednesday morning, and I make sure that I hear everybody's voice. And I ask them what's going on, but I always ask them, like, okay, so how are you doing at home? Like, they're giving me a project update, and if they don't tell me how they're doing at home, I'll ask. And I'm getting a lot more really good personal feedback that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. That's what I meant by it's sort of things are getting better. Our cohesiveness is improving. So that's really critical for us.
Yeah, I've just got a quick question here. What is the book name? Tracking, was it called?
Traction, like your tires need traction. Yeah, by Gino Wickman. Yep, it's a really great book. If anybody's trying to run a company or run a team or has influence for the running of their company, and there's just so many things you're doing wrong after you read this, but it's just been great.
We might send a link to that book out with the follow-up email around this too, so people can check it out. Great stuff.
Yep.
Great stuff.
Best business book I've ever read.
Well, there you go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
No, seriously. Yeah.
Fun and engagement. So look, for me, I'm an extroverted person, and I work in a very fun environment. We're a little bit of a cliche kind of environment with the table tennis table. I miss the face-to-face interaction. I miss the table tennis. I miss the computer games. Look, here we go. The after-work beers, the jokes in the kitchen, and going out to lunch with colleagues. You pretty much lose most of that with remote working. And I know you and I were talking prior to this about some of the fun ways that you having put into the business to engage and work with your staff. Can you just sort of give us a few tips? Nice visual gag there.
Yeah, so like our team, they'll play Jackbox. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. It's like an online gaming platform where people can play games. One of our employees, she was so clever, she hung a camera over a Monopoly board and played like virtual Monopoly with both her friends outside of work and inside of work, and we share those ideas with each other. We like if you're comfortable, if you're the boss, if you just happen to be the boss and you're not necessarily comfortable playing games with your folks, like I get it. What what you could do instead is find out who won the game, like pop in, find out who won the game and like send a gift card to them or something like that. Just it's like, oh hey, look, I heard you won the big game of Risk the other night or something like that, and give them a $25 gift card or something. It's there's just ways that like people they have a little fun with it, they feel appreciated. Like I said, we do the lunch and learns, which is both informative and fun. Those are the best kinds for me because you actually get to learn something. I like to learn things, and get to buy people lunch. Some people do the virtual coffee I mentioned. Some people do virtual cocktail hour. That not all appropriate for all types of organizations, but some people
No.
will do that. I mean, we're doing that with our families on Zoom. I hate Zoom, but it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And really kind of ratchet up the whole like, hey, look, like this doesn't have to be a super serious callous thing. And on the Wednesday call every day, because I was trying to loosen people up a little bit, I take a different funny hat that I find like for my kids, like Batman hats from when they were 5. Like, and even if they don't fit, I stuff them on my head, just to get people to laugh, right? I want the crew to realize like I'm just a person too, and I have emotions too, and I realize like it's okay to laugh, it's okay to have fun, it's okay to laugh at me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like have fun with it. Like we only get so many rotations on this thing. Let's enjoy it.
Yeah, I actually really liked your idea of buying people lunch on a Friday where you PayPal them, $15 and they go out and buy their takeaway and everybody comes back together for that brown bag type session. I think it's a really good one. I really like that.
Yep. Yep.
All right. So look, obviously a lot of us are working with Microsoft Teams right now. The two of us here, we both work within the Microsoft ecosystem and understand the power of Microsoft Teams and how it's changing the lives for so many remote workers. I heard a stat yesterday. I think it was 75 million daily users or something like that. It's just absolutely skyrocketed. But it's not a magic wand, though, is it? Really, mate? It does a lot, but it doesn't do everything.
No. I mean, I always say to people when we used to do SharePoint or Teams sort of governance engagements, and I'd say, listen, anybody that used a Palm Pilot back in the day, anybody as old as me out there, that I bought one of those things when I was 20 something years old, and I'm like, because I have I'm an ADHD guy, and I didn't know it growing up, so I always had trouble staying organized, and was really tough as a student. And somehow when I became an adult, I guess I just sort of figured out how to manage it. But so I got this Palm Pilot. I thought this is going to be like life changing. And what I realized is that like it's garbage in, garbage out. If you don't actually put all your calendar and stuff in there, your contacts, your phone numbers, it doesn't do you any good at all. So it's not a magic wand. It's a tool. It's a platform. It's a set of capabilities that you have to work at using. It's like it's just because I bought my gym membership doesn't mean that I'm getting into shape, right? Like I actually have to
Yeah.
show up and I have to learn how to use the machines and I have to commit to it. And Teams is just another one of those kind of muscles you got to flex.
Yeah, well, look, what I like about Teams, it's a great hub for so many things. And here at LiveTiles, we're looking for ways to augment the Teams experience with our other tech apps and the like. And to really leverage its power, you need to get the foundation right. To spend some time planning out your teams and your channels, and you got your user access, you got your governance. And look, just the link you can see there on the screen, it takes you some of the free tools that we've put together here at LiveTiles to help you with those types of activities if you haven't embarked on that already, and really allow you to take your team's experience like beyond video calls and file sharing. So just an offer for some support there if you would like some from us here at LiveTiles. That brings us to the end of our session today, mate. I've really enjoyed. There's been some really great insights, some great stories, some excellent tips. Hopefully everybody else has enjoyed it. I have flashed up a blank screen there for next week's session. Keep an eye out on the socials for us announcing our next week's session, because we have had a small hiccup with a guest for next week. We organise these sessions pretty much about a week to 10 days in advance so that we're staying current in this rapidly changing world that we're currently living in. So You would know, Ryan, we sort of pull this together sort of late, but
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. We can do that with the technology. So yeah, keep an eye out for next week to see what's happening there. And in the meantime, Ryan, thank you very much for joining us here today. It's been a fantastic chat with you. I hope everybody has enjoyed it. And we'll send out an email to follow up on this with a couple of links and that can help everybody out with, hopefully implementing some of these ideas that you've spoken about here today in their own businesses. So thank you very much, mate.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm really happy that you had me here, and I know we kind of scratched the surface in about a half an hour. It's high level stuff. If anybody has any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I can talk about this stuff all day.
We'll share your email address. It's at Timlin Enterprises in Massachusetts. Yeah.
That's right. My two children's names put together.
Nice.
Yep.
Sounds great. All right. Well, thank you very, very much to everybody for joining us this morning. It's been great. And we'll talk to you again soon. So stay safe out there.
Thank you.